Contact! Brace!
Clear! Move it! Copy! Rolling out!
Contact! We have visual on the extraction point.
Copy! Move up! Fast and low! Hold the line! Ignore the casualties!
We're outnumbered. This is suicide.
Rounds found steel! We push through!
You're insane!
Control yourself, soldier! We are not turning back!
Captain Mercer Stahl keyed his mic and laughed. Say that again, Hollis. Slower this time, so the crew can enjoy it. Reyes Hollis did not raise her voice. Lateral pivot, 40 meters now. Bring Bravo and Charlie around the rubble line before they close the gap. Inside the tank, the air smelled of diesel and hot metal. Stahl's headset crackled against his ear, and he tapped it like it had insulted him personally. No support officer tells Armor how to survive a kill zone, he said. You ride along. You watch. You don't command steel. The crew chuckled. Gunner first, then the loader.
Turret's locked. What's the target?
Sir, we're not authorized.
Authorized. Fire.
Yes, sir! Pivot! Now! Copy that! Moving it!
A short, ugly laugh that bounced off the hull. Hollis kept her eyes on the tactical display, where the column's icon sat frozen in a corridor of collapsed concrete. She had seen this shape before. Buildings leaning the wrong way. Sightlines too clean. A trap built for a column that thought speed was the same thing as safety. 40 meters, she said again. You have maybe 20 seconds before they finish boxing you in. Stahl shook his head, grinning at his loader. 20 seconds for what exactly? That was when the radio cut. Not static, not chatter. A clean, deliberate override that silenced every channel in the column at once. A voice from command, flat and absolute. Ghost Armor has tactical authority. All units comply. The laugh died somewhere in Stahl's throat. He looked at Hollis like he was seeing her name for the first time, even though he'd read it on a manifest that morning and thought nothing of it. Hollis, support liaison. Quiet. Forgettable. She was already moving. Headset pressed tight against her jaw, voice even. Lateral pivot, 40 meters. Now, Captain. This time, nobody laughed. The tank lurched into the pivot a half second after Stahl's voice cracked the order. Rougher than Hollis wanted, but fast enough to matter. 40 meters of broken street rolled past the periscope. Dust kicking up where the road had buckled years ago and never been repaired by anyone who cared. The loader's hand had not moved from the breach. He was watching Hollis now instead of the captain. The way men watch a fuse, they suddenly realize is lit. Command override, the gunner muttered. On a column net. That doesn't happen for nobody. Hollis ignored him. She was reading the corridor the way another person might read a face, picking out the wrongness in the rubble pattern, the gap in the collapsed wall that was too clean to be collapsed at all. Someone had built this. Someone had wanted tanks funneled exactly here, exactly now, with the recovery route sealed behind them before the first shot landed. Bravo's clear of the choke point, she said into the headset. Charlie, hold your spacing. Do not bunch at the corner. Stahl's jaw worked like he wanted to argue and couldn't find the angle.
He keyed the mic anyway, voice lower now, stripped of the laugh from a minute ago.
He keyed the mic anyway, voice lower now, stripped of the laugh from a minute ago. Who told command to hand a support liaison the net? Nobody told them anything, Captain, Hollis said. They already knew. You have felt that kind of silence before. The one that drops over a room when an answer arrives that nobody asked for and everybody needed. It dropped over the tank now, thick enough to chew. You know who misread that room first. Put the name or the role in the comments. Outside, past the cracked viewport, the ruins kept their secret a little longer. Drone feed flickering, sensors lagging half a second behind reality. And somewhere in that gap, the ambush waited for the column to believe it was still in control. It was not. Stahl tried one more time to claw back the chain of command, because pride does that. It keeps swinging after it already knows it's lost. This is still my tank, Hollis. My column. It's still your tank, she agreed. I'm not driving it. I'm reading what's about to kill it. The loader laughed once, short and nervous, and shut his mouth fast when nobody else joined him. Hollis traced a line across the tactical display with 2 fingers, the gesture small and economical. Nothing like the wide gestures of men who needed an audience to believe their own plans.
We failed! Get us out of here!
I hear you. This time, we're all walking out.
There's a heavy weapons position dug into that second floor. North side. They'll let Bravo pass it, then close the south end once Charlie's boxed in behind the rubble. You can't know that from a drone feed that keeps dropping, Stahl said. But he said it quieter. He said it like a man checking a door he already suspected was locked. I don't need the drone feed, Hollis said. I need you to trust the pivot for 30 more seconds. Static rolled through the cabin as the drone link dropped again. Longer this time, the screen freezing on a half-formed image of broken concrete and a shadow that might have been nothing, or might have been exactly what Hollis already knew it was. Stahl's hand hovered over the comm switch like he was deciding whether obeying her again would cost him something he couldn't get back. Behind him, the gunner had already started adjusting Travers without being told, because some instincts don't wait for rank to catch up. 30 seconds, Stahl said finally. Not a question. Not quite an order either. Just a man buying time he wasn't sure he deserved. The drone feed died completely 30 seconds later, and with it went the last clean picture anyone in the column had of what waited ahead. Hollis had expected that. She had built the timing around it. Sensors are gone, the gunner said, voice tight. Digital maps frozen on last known position. We're blind. You're not blind, Hollis said. You're listening to the wrong thing. She pulled her headset tighter against her jaw. The worn leather padding cracked at the seam from years of use that had nothing to do with this column, this captain, or this corridor of ruins. It had been with her in places that no longer existed on any public map. It had carried orders that no longer existed in any public record. I have heard men laugh like that before, and it never ends well. Not because the laughing man is cruel, because he has mistaken silence for absence, and absence for safety. The corridor outside was neither silent nor safe. It was patient. Stahl's tank rolled past a collapsed archway, and Hollis caught the angle of the rubble the way she'd caught it on the display. Too deliberate, too convenient. Shaped by hands instead of time. There, she said. That gap in the wall. That's not damage. That's a firing lane. The gunner's Travers stopped cold, barrels swinging toward the gap of a half second before the first muzzle flash lit the dark behind it. Stahl didn't laugh this time. He gave the order to brace, and for the first time since the mission started, his voice matched hers. Flat, fast, stripped down to exactly what the moment needed. The ambush had announced itself. Fire opened from 3 points at once, and the column's careful spacing turned, in half a second, into a problem with no clean answer. Bravo's lead tank took a glancing hit on the Glacis plate, metal screaming without breaking. The kind of sound that tells a crew exactly how close their luck just came to running out. Charlie bunched at the corner Hollis had warned them about, exactly the way she'd said they would, exactly the way the ambush had been built to make them. Behind it all, on a channel none of the crew could hear, command was watching. A senior officer in an operations room 200 kilometers back leaned toward a screen showing the column's positions freeze, scatter, and start to collapse into the shape of a kill box. He had read the override request 20 minutes earlier. He had approved it without hesitation, because the name attached to the request was not new to him. Ghost Armor. He had signed off on a name connected to a mission that did not exist in any briefing folder available to the column now fighting for its life in the ruins. He had also signed off, years ago, on the silence that buried what she'd done the first time. He watched the tactical feed and said nothing else. He didn't need to. The column either listened to her now, or it became a statistic by morning. Inside the lead tank, Hollis felt the corridor close the way she'd felt it close once before, in a place this column would never hear about. This time, she intended to make sure everyone walked out of it. Lateral pivot won't save Charlie now, Stahl said, voice raw over the comm. They're boxed. They're not boxed, Hollis said. They're bait. Use that.
Captain Mercer Stahl keyed his mic and laughed. Say that again, Hollis. Slower this time, so the crew can enjoy it.
Say it, Hollis.
I said no. You want to argue?
You know the moment when an order stops sounding like suggestion and starts sounding like the only sane option left in the room. That moment hit Stahl somewhere between her first sentence and her second. "Bravo! Hold position and angle hull down behind the collapsed wall," Hollis said, voice cutting clean through the static. "Charlie, do not retreat. Pivot 90 degrees and present armor toward the north position. You're not running from the kill box. You're becoming the wall they didn't plan for." "Hover." The gunner's hands moved before his brain finished processing the order. Traverse spinning the turret into position with the kind of trained reflex that doesn't ask permission. Metal ground against rubble as Charlie's hull swung, presenting its thickest armor toward the position that had been carving fire into the columns seconds earlier. Rounds that had been finding gaps now found steel built to eat them. Stahl stared at the display where two tanks, instead of fleeing the trap, had turned themselves into the one obstacle the ambush hadn't accounted for. A moving wall between the kill box and the soldiers pinned down beyond it. "She's turning the column into cover," he said, half to himself, half to a crew that was already 3 steps ahead of his disbelief. Hollis didn't answer. She was already calculating the next 30 seconds, the ones that would decide whether this corridor became a grave or a story men told for the rest of their careers. I do not think fear was the worst thing in that corridor. Pride was. Pride had built half the trap before the enemy ever fired a shot. The moment a column believed speed could replace judgment. Hollis moved through the next sequence the way she'd moved through the one nobody talked about. Years earlier, when a different company had needed exactly this kind of calm and gotten it from her without ever knowing her name. "Bravo! Drop your rear guard 40 meters and angle toward the alley mouth," she said. "Charlie, hold the wall formation. You're not just blocking fire anymore. You're the spine of the extraction route." The radio caught a second voice, ragged and distant, breaking through on an open frequency that shouldn't have reached this far into the corridor. "This is First Squad, pinned at grid 4-2. We have wounded. We cannot move." Stahl's eyes found Hollis across the cramped interior of the tank, and for the first time there was no challenge left in them, just a question. "Soldiers behind the kill box," she said. "The ones the ambush was actually built to trap. Tanks were just the lock." She read the terrain again, the way the buildings leaned, the way the rubble channel narrowed toward the alley, and saw the one gap wide enough for armor to punch through without collapsing what was left of the structure overhead. "Charlie, hold," she said. "Bravo with me. We're not retreating from this corridor. We're opening it." The gunner exhaled the kind of breath men release when they finally understand the plan instead of just following it. Bravo's hull ground forward through the narrow gap Hollis had marked, scraping rubble off both sides of the alley in long gray streaks. The space was tight enough that the tank commander could have reached out and touched the walls on either side, if reaching out had been anything but a way to lose a hand. Charlie held its position exactly where she'd placed it. Hull down, armor angled, absorbing fire that had nowhere left to go but into steel built to take it. The two tanks were no longer a column moving through a kill zone. They were a wall with one door, and Hollis controlled exactly where that door opened. "First Squad, this is the column," Stahl said into the open channel. Reading the words Hollis fed him through her headset like a man reciting something he didn't fully understand yet, but trusted completely. "We are opening an extraction lane on your position. Hold what you have. We're coming through," a ragged voice answered, thinner now, edged with something between disbelief and relief. "Copy that. Did not expect anyone to find us in this mess." "You weren't lost," Hollis murmured, mostly to herself. "You were exactly where the trap wanted you." That's not the same thing. Bravo's hull cleared the last of the rubble, and the alley opened into a wider lane, dust and smoke rolling off broken concrete, where the structure had finally given the column room to breathe. Behind them, Charlie's armor took another hit and held. The wall was working. Somewhere behind the gunner's shoulder, a voice on the command channel that nobody in the tank recognized said something that wasn't meant for them, but carried anyway on an open frequency nobody had thought to close. "Confirm. Ghost armor. Same one from the extraction at the river crossing 3 years back. The one that's not in the after-action report." The loader's head turned slowly toward Hollis, like a man recalculating every assumption he'd made about her since the mission briefing that morning. "What river crossing?" he asked. not really expecting an answer. Hollis didn't look up from the display. Ask command. I'm not the one who decided what goes in a report and what doesn't. Stahl said nothing, but something in his jaw had loosened, the way it does when a man realizes the story he'd been telling himself about a person was smaller than the truth. The extraction lane held. Soldiers from First Squad began moving through it in twos, dragging a wounded man on a litter between them.
Pride had built half the trap before the enemy ever fired a shot. Speed can't replace judgment. Get us out of here, now!
Faces streaked with dust and the particular exhaustion of people who had stopped expecting rescue and gotten it anyway.
Hold your ground, stay low!
Another hit!
Status on Charlie. They're holding the flank, the wall is working.
Hollis watched them come through the gap she'd built out of 2 tanks and 30 seconds of nerve, and felt nothing like triumph, just the old, familiar weight of having done the math correctly when it mattered. Behind her, the radio carried one more fragment of the conversation Command hadn't meant for the column to hear. She saved a company once. Nobody was supposed to know that. Looks like nobody told the enemy. The extraction lane held for 6 full minutes, long enough for First Squad to clear every wounded man through the gap Hollis had carved with 2 tanks and a plan nobody else in the column had seen coming. Command's voice returned on the open channel, no longer routed only through override authority. Column Actual, this is Task Force 6. Sit rep. Stahl keyed the mic, and for a moment his hand hesitated over the switch, like the words waiting behind his teeth cost him something. Task Force 6. This is Column Actual. First Squad extracted, 6 wounded recovered, column intact. He paused, then added the part that mattered. Tactical lead executed by Ghost Armor. Recommend that authority remain in place until we clear the corridor. If you have ever watched a man hand over credit he didn't want to give, but knew he owed, you know exactly what that pause sounded like over a crackling radio line. If you want this work to continue without losing quality, the pinned comment is the place to act. The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. Copy. Column Actual. Authority remains with Ghost Armor through extraction complete. Hollis kept her eyes on the display, where the corridor's last firing position blinked out as Bravo's secondary gunner found the angle she'd called 30 seconds earlier. The loader looked at Stahl. Stahl looked at nothing in particular, jaw set, the kind of expression men wear when they're recalculating an entire morning's worth of certainty in real time. Column, hold formation, Hollis said. We're not done until the corridor is clear behind us, too. Nobody argued. The corridor finally went quiet the way places go quiet after violence has finished asking questions and gotten its answers. Not peaceful, just spent. Bravo and Charlie rolled clear of the ruins 20 minutes later. Hulls scarred white where rounds had chewed at armor and failed to get through, dust caked thick enough to hide the unit markings underneath. Behind them, the column that had entered a kill zone left it whole, every soldier accounted for, every wounded man breathing on a litter instead of a casualty report. At the staging point, senior officers were already waiting, the kind of attention that only gathers when command wants an explanation in person instead of over a radio that strangers might be listening to. Stahl climbed down from the tank first, and he didn't wait for someone to ask him what happened. He said it before anyone could shape the question into something easier to answer. The column would have been destroyed, he said. All of it. If she hadn't taken the net when she did, none of us walk out of that corridor. He didn't say her name like a man saving face. He said it like a man finally getting the math right. Ghost Armor identified the ambush before our sensors confirmed it, he continued. She restructured our formation under fire and opened an extraction lane for a squad we didn't know was pinned. I gave the order to comply. I'd give it again. The officers said nothing for a moment, the kind of silence that arrives when an explanation answers more than the question that was asked. Hollis stood a few meters back, headset still looped around her neck, saying nothing at all. She didn't need to. Read that again. A column commander in front of his own superiors, crediting a support liaison with saving every soldier under his command. Men do not say that lightly. They say it when the alternative is a lie they can't afford to keep telling themselves. One of the senior officers, A woman with the kind of quiet authority that comes from having seen too many after-action reports go wrong, studied Hollis for a long moment before speaking. "Ghost Armor," she said. "I read your file 3 years ago. The river crossing extraction, 6 tanks, a stranded company, and an after-action report that conveniently forgot to mention who actually planned the recovery." Hollis didn't flinch. Reports forget things. People don't, usually. "This crew will remember," the officer said, glancing toward Stahl, who had the look of a man still recalculating every assumption from that morning. "And so will I. Effective immediately, your tactical authority on joint armor operations stands on record, not buried, not classified out of existence the way the last one was." Stahl stepped forward, and for the first time since the mission began, his voice carried no challenge at all. "For what it's worth," he said, "I owe this crew an apology, and I owe you one too." Hollis looked at him for a moment, the headset still hanging loose around her neck, the same one that had carried her voice through a corridor built to kill everyone in it.
Status update, Lieutenant. Situation is fluid, Commander. I need a moment.
We don't have a moment. Report.
"You don't owe me an apology, Captain," she said. "You owe the crew a commander who listens next time before someone has to override you to keep them alive." He nodded once. It was enough. The base went quiet that night, the way places go quiet when a story is finally caught up with the truth instead of running ahead of it. By the time the column's tanks were parked and counted, word had already moved faster than any official report could chase it. Ghost Armor, the name that wasn't supposed to exist outside a sealed file, moved through the motor pool, the mess hall, the briefing room, picking up weight with every retelling, the way names do when the people repeating them actually witnessed what they're talking about. Stahl found Hollis near the maintenance bay later, scrubbing dust off a headset that had outlived 3 deployments, and most of the people who doubted it belonged to anyone important. "They're already calling it the corridor," he said, "like it's going to be a thing people teach in training." "It might be," Hollis said, not looking up. "Bad terrain doesn't stop existing just because nobody wants to talk about it." He hesitated, the way men do when they're about to say something true and aren't sure they've earned the right yet. "I almost got my whole crew killed because I decided what you were before I bothered to find out." "You're not the first," Hollis said. "You were just the first one today." She finished with the headset and looped it back around her neck, the same worn leather that had carried her voice through a kill zone built specifically to make a column believe it had no good options left. "I have watched silence win more fights than shouting ever did. Tonight was one more." The column slept whole. The corridor stayed empty behind them. And somewhere in a file that would probably stay sealed a little longer, a name that had once been erased got written back in, one extraction at a time. Ghost Armor had not needed the credit. She had simply needed the chance.